Right, Natasha, it's great to have you on the podcast today. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, Adam. How are you?
Good, good. Yeah, I'm really well, thank you. And it's great to have you on the show. And I just thought I'd kind of like, introduce you because, you're a clinical psychologist and, you help people, move forward. And I just kind of thought like kind of go into that and kind of, kind of what you kind of do.
Sure. So, obviously, clinical psychology is very much about like the application of kind of psychology theory, and models to help people, I suppose, really become free of some things that might be really troubling them. So, it could be trauma, and a lot of things that underpin anxiety and depression is actually linked to more trauma. Um, so a lot of the work that we do is really helping people, not just on a symptom level. So it's not just about kind of helping you feel less anxious or less depressed, but also helping you improve your functioning, your quality of life, connecting more with what you truly would love to create in the world as well, and just kind of feeling more at peace.
Yeah, no, I really like that. And I think it's really important. I think like, especially now during like the pandemic since that happened, I think a lot of people are really needing that kind of support. I mean, have you kind of seen that over the span of a year or so? you know
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people in mental health would have seen that. I think it's been really difficult. Just simple things like connection and closeness and um, feeling safe. A lot of the pandemic has really got in the way of people feeling connected because they can't go out and meet people. And also, if you had some level of anxiety before, and anxiety is a normal human emotion, but with all the media and all the fear and all the all the things that we've been coming across, lots of people have also felt more anxious, more
Mm.
afraid, or more lonely. Uh, so, and also there's been a lot of grieving as well. Lots of people have lost things. They might have lost people that are close to them, or jobs, or things that once were quite stable. Everything's become quite unstable. So I think it's been such a challenging time for many people.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of uncertainty, isn't there? I mean, I think I've spoken to different people, and there's almost like different kind of spectrums of kind of what's been happening. I think a lot of people have done well in their business; they've done okay. Then there's a lot of people who are struggling and very anxious, and there's some people which I've seen in the media and the news who've been struggling, and I think like mental health is a really really big topic, and I think people can kind of only see what's kind of happening on the surface, and I think it's important that people kind of talk about what's going on and work with people like yourself, to kind of, to develop and look after themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with what's happened, lots of people have found their own ways of coping, but a lot of ways of coping have been taken away as well. So if you were someone that used the gym a lot, it became really difficult because you can exercise that easily, or even simple things. I think we really underestimate the importance of connection and seeing people, speaking with people, going out and doing different things. They're all really important aspects of keeping well and healthy. And
Mm,
yeah, so I think that's a big thing because you haven't even been able to hug people. These things make
yeah,
such a difference.
yeah, definitely. I think people, need that human connection, don't they? I think
Mm.
we like to be connected to people. We like to see people. We like to have conversation and do things that kind of break the ice. If that makes sense. Take us out of what we're usually doing. We like to meet up and exercise and go to gyms. And I think like when people weren't able to do that, you know, it was such a restriction on them and affected their mental health. And I think even now things have kind of eased in the UK. I mean, do you think some people or have you encountered any people who are kind of feeling anxious because things are kind of opening up now?
Absolutely. I think change can be quite anxiety provoking and also readjusting to a new, whatever new normal is.
Mm,
So I think there's a lot of anxiety around how to then make that almost transition from how life was because it's still very different. We've still got lots of restrictions in the UK, haven't we? So there's also anxiety around how to make that transition back for some people. For other people, also, I think there's the whole thing around the pandemic being this great awakening. So lots of
Mm.
people have also talked about um, having this time has made them think more deeply or think about things that they might not have thought about before. So if you're in jobs that you weren't really enjoying that much, or in relationships that weren't quite working for you, it could have gone one or the other way. It could have helped you become more clear about whether that's something you want to stay in, or it can create more uncertainty or more anxiety about, well, actually, I'm even more aware that it's not the right fit for me. It's something that I'm not kind of content in. So one of the things around slowing down has also been that in many ways it's made people more aware or created more questions.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's definitely a silver lining to the situation. I think it's definitely made people kind of look inwardly more and really kind of tune into kind of what's going on and to really
Mm.
question things. I think, whether that's, a relationship or a job. And, I think people are asking themselves kind of more questions. Things are kind of coming up, have been coming up for them. And I think there's that silver lining to it. Like, it must be rewarding though, helping people and seeing them progress and, the work that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great privilege, isn't it, to have people connect with you, share things with you that they might not share with anyone, and also, yeah, to see that journey. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to see people get from a place where they might be feeling uh, lost, lacking clarity, anxious, or experiencing trauma, to them feeling more kind of expansive, whole, and also having just as great a sense of kind of joy and peace. And that's an
Mm.
amazing thing to really be part of. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like, is there a particular area that you kind of like to kind of work in? Because I remember like before we recorded, you was talking about like kind of help people kind of tap into the higher self and kind of tuning in.
Yeah, absolutely. Because obviously I'm called the intuitive psychologist on Instagram, and one of the things that I definitely am really interested in is helping people connect with going beyond the mind. So that's really about helping you connect with. Sometimes it's called super consciousness.
Mm.
It's about being able to connect to that higher part of us that holds infinite wisdom, and also when we connect to that part of us, we it's a sense of becoming a lot more aware of what your heart would want, and being able to create from a very heart-centered place, as well as being able to access higher wisdom. So one part of the work that I do is helping people connect to their higher consciousness, their super conscious mind, so they can kind of transform, go beyond the limiting beliefs or go beyond the ego, and get really specific wisdom about what they would love to create, what the next steps are, but also become more aware of how some of the things they might be doing can be getting in the way of creating like fulfilling relationships, or they might be getting in the way of, um, you know, going into something they would really love. So it could be creating a business, but sometimes some of the things that get in the way are fears or lack of confidence or fear of being seen. So there's lots of different things that play out in sort of subconsciously that can get in the way of us creating many things that we would really love. And at the same time, there's a real balance between, a lot of things that I think kind of society has taught us is around striving and pushing, and a lot of that actually creates a lot more suffering because we're becoming so attached to what we think we should do. So when we create from a higher place, it's really creating more from a place of kind of joy and love and going beyond the mind.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think like it's really important, in the work that you do, that you focus on these areas. And I think like people, with society, with their upbringing, with their ego, and when you kind of mix all these things together, these things can probably get in the way of people, living their full best life. And I think like, with the ego, people sometimes not being themselves, they might be doing certain things that aren't really good for them. And, when you think about people's upbringing and, their behaviors, there must be so many kind of layers to why someone is doing something, and trying to get them to kind of reframe that by, tapping into their higher self and kind of going beyond the ego and kind of beyond certain parts of their mind.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of it is operating at a level that we're not aware of. So a lot of the way in which we act or the way or the decisions that we make can often come from because from our ego or our subconscious mind, which really holds a lot of our fears, our difficult memories, or unhelpful beliefs. And so we tend to act from that place because we're not aware that that's happening. And at the same time, when we act from that place, it's limiting us, because it's trying to keep us safe. If I think I'm not good enough, then I'm not going to go and do something that's outside of my comfort zone.
Mm.
Or if I think
Yeah.
I'm not lovable, I'm not going to perhaps be vulnerable in relationships. When
Mm.
actually connection is often based on being able to be more vulnerable or opening our hearts. So you're absolutely right. That conditioning and that kind of subconscious mind can really get in the way.
Yeah, it's really deep and important topic, and I think it's kind of what underpins like what people are doing in their lives and what they have, what they attract. And I think you know if you think about the subconscious mind and how powerful it is, and is it like the first 7 years of your life, your subconscious mind's being programmed and you're taking in the environment and your behaviors, and like
Mm.
you said, it's pretty that's pretty a scary kind of fact, isn't it? And you think how some people are living and what they're doing, and a lot of it is like kind of automatic almost, like people are sometimes on autopilot and just doing kind of whatever they're doing based on beliefs, behaviors, what they've soaked up. So it really kind of makes you well, for me personally, really think about um the importance of being around the right stuff, or thinking, trying to think um a way that's going to benefit you and other people and things like that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, when you're talking, what was coming to mind was really more about the authentic self and
Mm,
actually being able to be more about authentic selves and what does that actually mean. And for me, I think it is about operating beyond those limiting beliefs because they are trying to keep you safe and they also block you from perhaps really fully expressing yourself or fully creating something. So
mm,
um, and we take on so many beliefs that are not even ours, from society about what society says we should be doing, or what our culture, our upbringing, or even people close to us, like our peers. So there's so many different things that can influence our mindset that we don't even always realize that that's happening.
mm.
So, yeah, so I think if you link that to the pandemic, for some people that could have also meant that it's that time to slow down has made them more aware of some of these things.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's really important. And like, do you think like when you work with clients and when you see some people that you know this kind of, if people are wanting to change and get better at it, it takes time. I think like a lot of the time people are wanting it now. Sometimes people want results straight away, and like I think like results are, it's possible to change, but I think you would say it takes time. It takes that kind of, there's a process to it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I think it definitely does. I think consistency of habits makes a difference, but I think there's something about it's not just about awareness, is it? There's also about what you do, your actions, um, and it can be really difficult to change certain habits because they're so ingrained. So there's definitely a combination of awareness, being able to connect with like super conscious mind, and then taking aligned action. So taking aligned action that's going to take you closer to what you would love. But I think the energy is really important behind what you do.
Mm,
Um, I think when we come from an energy that is grasping, we're really trying to grasp something, whether that's success or happiness, we really lose ourselves then. So there's also something about coming from a very grounded kind of place where you are operating more at peace. But it's a tricky one because each time you step outside your comfort zone, you are going to feel anxious. All those beliefs are going to come up. So it's also being able to kind of go beyond that. I
yeah,
suppose things, yeah.
yeah, definitely. I think it's really important to think about because I was thinking about this the other day and I did like a little video on it and I was thinking about like happiness and success and I think like happiness and success. I think society can kind of society to people, um, things that we see in social media are kind of saying this is what success is or this is what we think success is, and I think it's a very kind of inward, kind of personal thing, isn't it? I think what happiness and success might be for one person might not be for what it is for yourself. And, trying to kind of find what that is, I think that's kind of like the kind of process of life in some way, trying to figure that out.
Yeah, it's a bit of a paradox, isn't it, really? Because
Yeah.
I think as human beings, we're naturally wanting to expand, and so that means grow and maybe do new things, um, and then at the same time, a lot of, like you were saying, the society or the messages that we get around what success means. I think there can be a real toxic hustle culture where you just feel like you're constantly striving for more and more and more, and not able to just allow yourself to sink into the beauty of being and
Mm.
just really allow yourself to notice like all that is good now, being more at peace with what is now. Um, and the more connected we are with that place, it becomes a lot more easier anyway to be able to create or draw in what we truly would love. Because energetic is a different energy behind it.
Yeah.
We keep striving to trying to grasp, then it's difficult because when what's going to be enough? It's never going to be enough. So yeah, it's a really interesting kind of place to think about.
Mm.
It's quite thought provoking.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. And I think, like you said, the energy behind, what you do and kind of why you do it is, really important. And I think a lot of times people either don't ask themselves that questions or they don't think about it or they just kind of, just kind of spinning their wheels. Like, before COVID happened, I was just kind of working and just spinning my wheels, just and not really thinking too much about why I was doing what I was doing, you know. And I think people can kind of get caught in that loop. And I think, when you peel back those layers and think about the energy that you're putting into something and if you're putting energy into something that you love and you enjoy, that's completely different to something you don't like doing,
Absolutely, it makes a huge difference, doesn't it? If you're doing something
Yeah.
that you enjoy, you love, you're passionate about. Um, yeah, that's a very different energy, and also you just have a lot more energy to keep doing it because it
Mm.
lights you up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And have you always wanted to do kind of what you're doing, kind of getting into this? Like, did you try different things out in the past? Like, did you kind of know that you kind of had this within you? If that made sense.
Yeah, I think I knew around 15, which is really early, isn't
Oh
it?
wow,
Yeah, I was watching Ricky Lake. I don't know if you know what Ricky
I've
Lake
heard
is.
of the name.
Yeah, she was a chat show host, and I think there was a psychologist on there, and I think I'm just so fascinated by all this talk about the human mind and behaviour that so yeah, that's what I want to do. Uh, and yeah, so that kind of was an interest that sort of sparked it all off. And at the same time, I think there's always a very personal reason as well, which you might not always realize why you're drawn to
Yeah,
things. So I think I was also probably wanting to learn more about me and understand myself better, even from such a young age.
yeah,
So it definitely was, I suppose, a spark that led to following a career in clinical psychology. And then I suppose through my own journey, through my own healing journey, through learning different sort of approaches, things that are beyond psychology or different to psychology as well. Um, yeah, they've all probably taken, they've all added different thread. So more the kind of intuitive work, the superconscious work, that's a little bit different to what you get taught. Obviously, you don't really get taught that in clinical psychology training.
mm,
So there's lots of things that I've probably learned myself along the way through doing different courses and following, the next bit that kind of you get drawn to. Because I think we
mm,
all kind of have something with, oh, I really like a pull. You feel a pull to doing something.
yeah,
And that's adding another kind of layer, another thread to what you're then going to share or what's going to inform what you love to do.
yeah. No, definitely. I really love that, and I really like that you tuned into that and you followed it through, if that makes sense. You discovered that, you felt it, and you was like, "This is what I want to do," and you kind of gone ahead and gone into it. And I think sometimes that takes a lot of courage because sometimes people are saying, "Well, perhaps you should be doing this," and sometimes you kind of have to push through all that, zone it, kind of blank it out. And I think like sometimes, like you said, you just kind of get it. You have that kind of sense of feeling that you kind of pulled towards something. And I remember, I think I was about 14 or 15 when I kind of started getting into philosophy and you know, kind of spiritual kind of stuff as well.
Mm.
And I remember like listening to Alan Watts, who's like a philosopher at like 15, 16. And
I
like,
laugh because I was reading Deepak Chopra around that age as well. So.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much to learn though, isn't there? And I think it's a constant process and it doesn't really ever kind of finish, if that makes sense. I think there's always new stuff to learn. There's new stuff to learn about ourselves. Like kind of growth, continuous kind of process. Like, do you kind of found that? Is there like a particular area that you like to focus on, or that you're kind of drawn to?
Yeah, I suppose I am. I am more drawn to why we call it spirituality. I suppose I am more
Mm,
drawn to that, but that's more because it's about the way of the heart, and so that's different to the mind. The mind is a lot more analysis, and the way of the heart is really about allowing ourselves to be led through joy, through love, really going towards what lights us up, um, and just really being able to connect with that part of us that is kind of whole.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. I think there's like when you think about energy and the heart, mind, and like the soul. There's a lot. I think they're still finding out new research about how the brain works and energy and um I think there's a lot more than what we can kind of see kind of on the forefront, if that makes sense. I think if you tap into yourself and some people are more intuitive than others, some people can tap into certain energies, and I think like for the most part there's kind of more than what we see in front of us, if that makes sense. There's more happening. Like I won't go off topic too much, but I saw an article the other day about sharks, and it said
Mm.
that sharks are kind of guided by the Earth's magnetic field, and that's their compass. And it's like, well, that kind of blows my mind because I'm like, well, people just think, oh, there's just animals in the water. There's so much more happening. And that's with animals. But I mean, with people, there is so much more happening with people as well. When you think about energy and
Mm.
spirituality, um, and kind of things that if if you hear about people's life after death experiences or near death experiences and things like this, and you go more deeper into it, you just kind of think, well, there's much more going on that we can't sometimes can't explain.
Absolutely. I think it's interesting. The more you open yourself up, the more you consider these things, the more I think you do also become more able to sense. It all depends how much you want to expand your mind, isn't it? And
Mm,
there's lots of but the science and the research is catching up a lot more. Like you said, we know that the heart is more incredibly powerful than the mind. So in terms of its magnetic frequency, so what does that mean? I suppose a lot of the things that we're talking about is that it's beyond than what we think. It's beyond that.
mm,
It's also about the fact that we're energetic beings as well as having an emotional, kind of mental, physical body. We have an energetic body as well.
mm,
And even at a very simplistic level, you can feel your own energy. But even if you walk into a room, sometimes you can walk into a room and you might sense an energy feels a bit different, or it feels a bit
mm,
awkward, and that is that part of you that is sensing energy.
mm,
Yeah, and there's lots more about working beyond just the mental plane, but also working more energetically.
Yeah. Would you say, like when you think about empaths and um, things like that, like, do you think like, if you're empathic, you know, certain people are, more sensitive to energy than other people. People can be affected more by being around certain people or certain things. Um, or even like what people see on the television, can affect people's energy. Music can affect people's energy. Do you kind of find that, like if with empaths and sensitive people who have kind of sensitivities to energy, if that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I was having this conversation with a client of mine yesterday, actually. Um, and it's really important because if you are more highly sensitive or you're an empath, you can really absorb things that are not yours to absorb. So, you can take on other people's emotions, or without realizing it, you might also take things more personally um, because of that level of sensitivity. So there is definitely something about being aware of our energy, and how to look after your energy as well. You
Mm,
know, there's a lots of this year they're talking more about nature, and if we think about the pandemic, one of the most important things that people had that was consistent was nature, and being able to connect with nature. And a lot of the time, it is grounding your energy because you're connecting with the earth. So um, there's lots of things out there that can help us just kind of bring our energy back to ourselves, because
mm,
we don't realize sometimes, like you said, like the media can affect us, and especially with things like Instagram or things that are quite instant, we're constantly being bombarded with messages that
mm,
without us even realizing it is affecting our mind, it's affecting what we're taking in.
mm,
Recently I've taken a bit of a break from social media, and it's been really interesting just to see that the difference between
mm,
not being on technology so much,
mm,
um, and what it can, if you're on it a lot. And I think lots of people have had to use so much technology so much recently because, the pandemic, they've been using Zoom a lot, and
yeah.
people talking about like Zoom fatigue. There's lots of, there's lots of things that actually do affect us that we don't always realize.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think you have to kind of look after your energy and find ways of coping, or, you know, really kind of tuning into what works for you and tuning into your energy and realizing, I need to have a break from XYZ, or I don't need to do this for so long, and finding those ways of kind of grounding yourself. I think, like you said, you talk about nature, and, you know, being around nature can really help. Being around trees or, green, like green trees and or feeling out the wind. I mean, that's that. I mean, everyone's different, but that's what works for me. And yeah, I think it's really important, and I really think it's great. You've taken a break, from it and said, I'm gonna have a bit of time out. And that's really important because like there's so much happening. It's all the time. It's nonstop. And I mean, I was saying before to you earlier, like, I have to have a bit of a break, the weekend sometimes and just try and not go on it. But it's really important, like I said, to look after your energy because, with society today and technology, people are working a lot. You think about what you might be doing outside of work. We kind of need that time to ourselves, don't we? Just kind of like recharge and look after ourselves. Because if your energy isn't, if your health isn't great, your energy isn't great, then that's going to probably leak into other areas. So it's good to kind of, be conscious of that.
Yeah, 100% agree. You're absolutely right. Um, Sometimes I think people struggle because there can be a sense of being like you can't do certain things,
Mm,
maybe because you feel like, oh, you're doing things differently to what other people are doing. So, depending on the culture of what you're in,
mm,
um, to kind of go against the grain can
yeah.
be difficult, because you might feel like you've got to do things, whether that's long working hours, whether that's being on social media, whether that's sometimes people feel this sense of pressure to be in a relationship. There's so many different things that can impact us, and to really tune into actually what feels true for me, what's in line with my
Mm,
authenticity, and act in accordance to that can be really hard for people. It can be really tricky because we
mm,
can feel this sort of sense of, well, if I don't do this or I do this, what does this mean? What will people think?
Mm.
So important to be able to rise above that and find ways of being your true, more authentic self.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I really agree with that. I think, being that kind of congruence, isn't it, in yourself and following through with what matters, is really important. And I always ask people, usually, I don't know, put you on the spot, but I always ask people, role models or mentors. Like, do you have any kind of role models or mentors growing up or now, whether that's family or friends or anyone kind of famous or anyone you kind of like look up to?
Hmm. Um, it's a really good question. I think I've just been influenced by so many different
Mm.
people and things that I've learned and read. So I couldn't really name like one
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
person.
it's fine.
And I think also as you evolve and expand yourself, you get drawn to uh, different people or different ways of thinking
Yeah,
as well. So I think it changes and it evolves as well. So probably
yeah.
lots of different people. I love like Oprah's Soul on Sunday, and there's so many people that she speaks to on there that I always find when I listen to that, it's kind of a very uplifting, expansive kind of sense that you get. So this, and I think there's so many people out there now that are sharing more around higher consciousness, super consciousness,
Mm.
to help us kind of go beyond some of the limitations that we might place on ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think it's important that they do change, isn't it? Because as you grow, you need to kind of find people that are kind of going to help you to grow as well. And I think Oprah's a really great example, and she's, doing something that's amazing. And I was also thinking, do you have any favorite books? Do you have any favorite books that you've read? I mean, you can pick like a couple. I mean, it's fine. I know you might have a lot, but
There's so many. Definitely put me on the spot now. Um, when you said that, the first thing that came to mind was A Course in Miracles, actually, which is obviously a lot more of it's more of a spiritual book. But I think for me, obviously, when you're training to be a clinical psychologist, you read lots of books, and there's lots of things around like the body keeps a score, around trauma. There's lots of things that you read. Then I think there's things that just light you up, and things that are more
mm,
personal to you as well. And I probably am more drawn to yeah, like Katie Byron, like things that are just more going beyond the mind.
mm,
So it's a bit difficult right now because I've had a mind blank and I can't think of any
yeah.
books to name.
No, that's all right. No, you. No, so I'm the same when people ask me. I'm like, geez, it's hard to kind of process when you've probably read 20 different books or you got so many different books you like and trying to pinpoint what it is. It's like when people ask you what's your favorite film, it's like, I'll come back in 20 minutes.
Yeah, and also so much is by Audible. So I listen to a lot of things via Audible as well.
Yeah,
So you're kind of listening to a few books at a time. Which one is it?
yeah. That's awesome. It's always good to learn new things. And I think reading's so important because it really does kind of expand your mind and you can really learn a lot. And I think my mum's got Body Keep the Score. I think I have seen that. So that's meant to be really good.
Mm.
Um, but no, I really appreciate you sharing that. And I was just thinking, like, as well, like, where can people find you on social media, like, website, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I'm on social media at the underscore intuitive dot psychologist. And also you can email me, Dr. Natasha Sharma at hotmail.com. Yeah, if you want to get in touch or have any inquiries. And I'm also on LinkedIn.
Oh, that's awesome. But it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Natasha. And I'm really grateful to have you on the podcast. And I really think we touched base on some really deep, good topics. That people will really take a lot from. And I wish you all the best in all that you do.
Thanks so much for having me on, Adam.
You're most welcome.